Welcome back to another movie review, everybody. This is me, Trekflix, and today I'm going to be talking about Ruben Fleischer's Venom starring Tom Hardy. After the mess of the attempt that was the twiny Topher Grace and his shitty looking counterpart that was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, it's no real surprise that Sony felt that it was time to rejuvenate the supposed anti-hero now that Spider-Man Homecoming was their #1 hit from last year. Now I have to say that I was kind of on the fence with this reworking after the trailers were released. Okay, Venom himself looked the part and was finally given the full treatment as to how he looked overall. In the comics and TV series, he looks like Ronnie Coleman in his prime, and that's just what we've got here. But the wet and glossy look is a little odd to say the least, and it doesn't quite look as believable as it should. Tom Hardy and Michelle Williams are the main actors in the film as Eddie Brock and Anne Wing, with our homegrown British actor Riz Ahmed, who I only really recognise from 2014's Nightcrawler, alongside Jake Gyllenhaal as our antagonist, Dr. Carlton Drake. The rest of the cast, to me, are not really that relevant to this review because these three characters are the only ones really worth talking about. Now, I have to admit that Venom isn't really as bad as some people have made it out to be. However, Sony have done it again with interference, which this time I won't go into too much detail about because you guys will probably already know anyway. So, shall we talk about Wet Venom? I don't think so. So let's get into this. The story itself is conceivable and actually fairly sound to begin with, being fairly true to the comic's original concept. 4 symbiote life forms are found in deep space by a space rocket designed to collect samples of potential life for Carlton Drake's company, the Life Foundation. One of the symbiotes narrowly escapes as the shuttle crash lands back on Earth, and another one spares Eddie's life as it attaches itself to his body, and we have our our anti-hero Venom. Tom really puts his heart and soul into his dueling character arcs. There's a lot of witty banter between the two, which lighten the tone of the movie maybe a little too much from its initial dark tone. Personally, I would have liked to have seen a more grounded and serious Marvel installment. Now that we've had the likes of Logan and the 2 Deadpool movies, it's worth taking a chance now. I just hope that the people at Marvel and Sony are actually listening to this review, because I have noticed from over the countless videos that I've seen on YouTube that there are people that are wanting more movies like this within the universes. We meet Carlton Drake in an interview early on and initially get the feeling that this guy is a very generic and one-dimensional character. There was nothing about this villain to me that conveyed him as a threat. It was almost like he was a spoiled brat that's so boring and cringeworthy to watch. I was really surprised at this because even though I've only seen Riz Ahmed in Nightcrawler, as I said before, as Rick, the guy that works for Jake Gyllenhaal's character, I had really high hopes for him as a mainstream actor. Fortunately, in my opinion, he was severely miscast with a horribly written character as well. I mean, I still hope he gets the success he deserves. But this was I think this was just a bit of an unfortunate mistake for him, as many great actors have done in their careers. Also, Michelle Williams is probably one of my favourite leading actresses going today, with movies such as Blue Valentine, Manchester by the Sea, Shutter Island, and My Week with Madeline alongside Eddie Redmayne, which, by the way, is a must-watch if you haven't seen it, everybody. It's an absolute cracking film. Coming into Venom as Annie, however, there was very little for her to do. She was really only there to carry Eddie into the next scene when they had one together. And this, to me, was a waste of a pretty good character. She isn't a part of Eddie's life for the vast majority of the movie, but Michelle play, plays her well with the source material and also puts bags of conviction into a fairly somber character. Um, and as far as a concern for Eddie goes, she's fairly pertinent to say the least, considering. Now, as long as there's a decent story to carry the movie, the visual standpoint doesn't really bother me too much. However, this time around, sadly, they are hit and miss, and this is because of most of the scenes involving Venom are at night. I'm not entirely sure what the writers were thinking here, because in places the effects look like they've just jumped out of the 1990s, which, based on not only my viewing of the movie, but from other reviewers in the reviewers community, I do agree wholeheartedly with this. They looked awful in places, but Venom's look overall, besides the wet and glossy take, that doesn't really do anything for me. I don't really like it at all. It is actually fairly sound. He is as masculine as his comic book and animated series counterpart, but as said, the wet and glossy thing reminds me of Jackie Earle Haley's Rorschach from Watchmen. Sorry to bring that up, but I loved I loved the partial Eddie and Venom transition shots. They were brilliantly executed, especially with the altercation between Eddie and his neighbour being one of my favourite moments of the movie. It's by far not an original effect, but it still works for a movie such as this one. Now, if if I was directing this movie personally, I would have been using these transition CG shots for the full transformation, and not the use of the overlay effect. To me, this would have looked so much better. But the other scene that I really liked in this was the scene in the hospital in the MRI room. I thought that was really grueling to watch. It was a very unpleasant situation to be in, not just for Venom, but just in general. Really, like having to go in there and expose yourself to all of that. It's just awful. I've been through that myself. Um, Set aside, however, with a tiny budget of 100 million, the overall effects are far from perfect, as mentioned before. An example of this is the Golden Gate Bridge scene. I really have no idea what happened there. Even the chase scene was hit and miss, but I could kind of see where they were trying to go with that. But unfortunately, it just ended up being a generic setup with tentacles. It was a little different, but not by much. Now, again, if it was me in the director's chair, I would have gone for a full Venom reveal while this chase was going on. Just for a moment, just picture that. Just picture that, guys. Venom riding a motorbike in his first full scene. I think that would have been pretty. That would have been something special, as opposed to tentacles keeping Eddie alive. Now, even though I have iterated that the movie isn't great, its entertainment value is surprisingly good. I like the personalities between Eddie and Venom bouncing off each other, which is one of the reasons why the movie is watchable. And while there's plenty of things going on within the movie to keep it going at a reasonable pace, it's easy to switch off. And by the end of the second act, I was just thinking, hurry up. It does start coming into its own at the end of Act 2, fortunately. This isn't due to bad exposition. I just didn't need the melodrama during the period of the movie. I felt that Rubin and his writing staff tried too much to make Venom similar to a Spider-Man movie, but that hasn't detracted the fact that this is a moderately entertaining movie. So, coming to a close on this, Venom isn't the next best thing by a long shot, but it's better than some people have made it out to be, as I've already mentioned. Yes, the story overall is a little messy in places, but hey, you can't get it right all the time. What did let this movie down most was the villain, who is the most uninteresting one we've had yet in the Marvel Universe, which is more of a fill in the writing department, as well as a casting mistake, which is unfortunate. The visuals are just okay. Venom looks good and menacing as an anti-hero, even though the wet look takes us back to the 90s CGI in places. The real saving graces of the movie are our main stars. Tom gives an admirable performance to a character he has idolised for many years, and I honestly give him credit for taking this on, as his acting style unusually fits the bill here. Michelle Williams is also very good, but I felt she either needed more screen time or just a first act part. Overall, the movie is fairly sound, give or take. Venom, for me, gets a 6 out of 10. Thank you all for tuning into this movie review on Venom, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. For those people who have seen it, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. I'd be really interested to see what your thoughts are on the movie also. So before I go, I'd just like to issue a message to the channel called The Watchers. I have seen the game in the last couple of days, and I'm gathering my thoughts. And I've kind of got it in my head what I'm actually going to say in my review, so watch out for that in the next one. I've put my review for Solo Star Wars Story back to get this one in next, so look out for that one, guys. So I'm going to do my pleasantries now, everybody, and I will see you next time.